Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm sharing part 2 of the story that changed my life forever. What started as a simple friendship with one family, painful truths. This is the story of how I became trapped without even realizing it. So sit back and listen to A Family That Changed My Life, part 2.
The contract was signed, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief, believing the deal was closed. But a week later, the silence broke. A man from that family called my office phone, his voice smooth as silk. He requested a simple coffee meeting to discuss what he called minor revisions. I agreed, expecting a quick chat. He arrived with a wide smile and a gift box, completely ignoring the project details I had prepared. The boundaries began to dissolve. By the next morning, a bouquet sat on my desk, its scent overwhelming. By Friday, the professional facade was gone. He was calling my personal cell, asking about my weekend plans with an intimacy that felt like a threat. Then came the invitation I couldn't refuse. A private dinner at their family estate to finalize everything. I walked through the towering iron gates, unaware that the guards were already locking them behind me. Inside the foyer, the air turned cold. The entire family stood like statues, blocking every exit. The man stepped forward, closing the heavy oak door with a bone-chilling click. He held out a fountain pen and a thick stack of new documents. He pointed to the last page, where my name was already printed in bold. Dark ink. There was no way out. The deal was never about the project. It was about me. They invited me to join their weekend trips, and I accepted without a single hesitation. It felt like I had finally found a second family. Soon, their son began joining us on every outing. He was 20, just like me, and we shared the same youthful energy. We hiked deep into the mountains, sharing meals and stories by the campfire. They laughed at my jokes and offered me rides home.
I trusted them completely. I never questioned why they insisted I bring my passport on a simple hike through the woods.
One afternoon, we reached a remote cliffside. The sun stopped walking and pointed toward the horizon.
"Look at the view," he whispered. As I stepped forward, he didn't look at the sky.
He moved quickly to block the only path back. His warm smile suddenly vanished into a cold, empty stare. I turned to look at him, but he was already pulling a heavy rope from his bag. My heart hammered against my ribs. I looked down. The parents were waiting at the bottom of the ridge, their car engine idling in the silence. This was no accident.
It was not a friendly weekend trip. It was a calculated setup. Every laugh and every hike had been a lie, leading me right into this trap.
They began with a simple nod and a polite exchange about our quiet neighborhood. Just two strangers sharing a sidewalk. But 2 weeks later, she was on my porch, handing me a faded photograph of her childhood home. She spoke for an hour about the loss of her father while I poured the tea.
By the third week, the boundaries blurred. Midnight texts about her deepest fears became my only priority. I stopped checking my own world and waited only for hers.
Then came the Sunday dinner. I sat at the head of their table, passing dishes to her mother and laughing at her brother's jokes as if I had been there for years. When her father clapped my shoulder and called me family, I didn't pull away. I leaned into it. I spent every evening in their living room, helping them pack for vacations and holding the spare key to their front door. My own life was fading into the background. Looking at the table, I realized I had forgotten my own house key at home. I didn't reach for it. I didn't want it. I stayed until the lights went out,
feeling the heavy weight of their lives pulling me into the very center of their world.
The air in my office felt heavy as my father walked in. His hands were trembling.
A performance of vulnerability as he reached for a chair. He asked for 1 lakh,
claiming a business debt that needed immediate payment. Without a second thought, I transferred the money. A week later, the phone rang again. 2 lakh for an urgent supply shortage. I cleared my entire savings account to meet his demand. Soon, it became a cycle of midnight visits and desperate calls.
I justified the drain on my life by focusing only on his distress.
I chose to be blind. I ignored the glaring discrepancies in his records and the expensive new watch glinting on his wrist. But the truth became impossible to hide when the bank notified me of a zero balance. My life's work was gone. I had to face him. I found him at his house, surrounded by luxury suitcases and items he claimed he could never afford. "Tell me the truth," I demanded. He didn't even look at me. The man who raised me simply handed me a blank check, a final empty gesture. He walked out the front door without a word, leaving me alone in the silence of an empty living room. My father was gone, and so was everything I had built for him. Our 10-day trip began with high hopes and a shared sunrise. But by the third day, the air turned cold. She stopped sitting next to me on the train, staring out the window instead. At dinner, her eyes never left the phone hidden beneath the table. On the 5th day, the truth flickered in the hotel lobby. I saw her laughing with a man in a tailored suit. She held his arm with a familiarity that crushed me. I stood frozen in the corridor, watching their black car vanish into the city traffic. 2 days later, silence. My texts went unread. Back home, her mother gave me nothing but a cold, "She is not available." Then, their house went dark. The mailbox was emptied. I spent 6 grueling months tracing shadows and dead ends. Last week, in a dusty, discarded document, I found it. It was all a prearranged plan, a calculated move to secure a higher social status. She never intended to stay. Every smile was a lie. The weight of the paper felt like lead. I slowly put the folder back where I found it. There was nothing left to say, and no one left to find. I turned away, walking out into the cold, cleansing rhythm of the rain.